Welcome to Dinner DeeAs, a daily solution to life's biggest question. What's for dinner? Today, we have a cost-conscious cuisine as we share inspiration for a sourdough smorgasbord supper, a simple recipe for how to bake your own fresh loaf and combine it with everyday leftovers for a delicious dinner. Joining me to bake and break bread is Chef Jim Angus. He grew up in New Jersey and now runs restaurant Atria in Lakewood Ranch, where they make all their bread and pastries in-house. And today, he's sharing his experience of baking with us. So great to have you inside the Dinner DeeAs kitchen.
So great to be here. I love it.
You were inspired to share this recipe after a trip to the store the other night?
Yes. So I went to the store. My wife, Whaley, and my two girls, Zara and Aurelia, they were at a birthday. I had a night to myself. And I was like, you know what I should do? I'm gonna make myself a nice dinner. Never do that.
You never do that?
No, I'm always cooking for everybody else.
Okay.
So I went to the store and I went to the meat section. I'm like, I'm gonna make a steak. And I'm like, I can't pay $40 for a single steak. I'm like, that's fine. I'm a chef. I'll get a cheaper cut, play around with it. I don't want to pay $30 for a cheap cut either. And so what ended up happening is I got really discouraged and I went home and I found a bunch of leftovers, cobbled them together and had, I would say, almost a more satisfying dinner than I would have had if I spent $80 at the store.
All right, so to get a loaf like you guys make at Atria.
Yes.
Where do we start?
So with sourdough bread baking, it's a long process, but the active time is relatively short. You're just kind of nurturing it. It's almost like a little bit of a pet, right?
Okay.
You have to do certain things to it, but it's a very, very simple process. It only has 5 ingredients, right?
Okay.
We got flour, we got water, we've got our sourdough starter, we use fresh milled wheat and salt. That's it. Really, really simple.
What's a sourdough starter, though?
A sourdough starter is a community of yeast and bacteria that are living in harmony with each other.
Okay.
So you know the little packets that you get to make rolls and buns that everybody has during the holiday season?
Yeah.
That's just yeast, which is great for having nice, fluffy, aerated bread.
Sure.
But sometimes when you eat that, your stomach gets a little bit upset, right?
Totally.
Because what's not happening is there's no fermentation occurring. And so the other part of the sourdough starter equation is the good, healthy bacteria, lactobacillus, that actually allows you to digest the nutrition from the wheat. And oftentimes people who have a hard time eating or processing wheat, when they have sourdough bread, they have an easier time doing it.
Now, can you make the sourdough starter? Can you buy a sourdough starter?
Yeah.
How does that come into play?
Absolutely. I would love to sell anyone a sourdough starter at any point in time. Just come find us. But this is how we sell it right here at the shop. But yes, you can make it. You can just mix together equal parts flour, water, and let it sit on the countertop for a little bit. And after a couple days, it'll be nice and bubbly like that. So the first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take our water. So we've got our water measured out.
Temperature for a water. Do you want it to be cold, room temperature, warm? What's going on there?
So the warmer the water, the faster it's gonna ferment. I always just say, do room temperature.
Okay.
You don't need to get crazy. You can get as scientific as you want or as simple as you want. Room temperature is perfectly fine. This has been sitting here for like 30 minutes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so room temperature is fine for that one. Okay.
So we're gonna take our water, we're gonna add that into our mixer. Next up, we're gonna get our sourdough starter. So, and actually here, give this a smell. Smell that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's what's like a very common misconception about sourdough starter is a lot of people think that sourdough bread has to be sour. And there's actually not a whole lot of sourness in that, right? It actually smells kind of sweet, right? And so with that, you actually don't necessarily need your sourdough starter to get very sour in order to get it to leaven correctly.
Okay.
And so for us, we actually bake very, very, very young so the bread stays nice and sweet and aromatic. So the next thing that we're gonna do that's a little bit different is we've got our flour already scaled out here.
Okay, but now how important is it to actually scale, measure, and to use it right? Because it's like one thing to be like, oh, hey, here's a cup here, there's a cup there. Like, no, yes, what?
It's massively important. And what I would say is one of these scales is the most important thing. So this scale in particular is $12 on Amazon. It's a very small investment, but when it comes to scaling your ingredients, when it comes to bread, we scale everything to the gram because the gram is very, very accurate. So we've got our flour scaled out. The next thing that we're gonna do that's a little bit unique is we're going to grind some fresh wheat berries.
Okay. we've got wheat berries. Where would someone find wheat berries?
So
I mean, is this something that is just like, oh, hey, this was on aisle 7?
Yeah, from wheat trees. No, just kidding.
Yes, I have that outside right now.
Exactly. No, so you can get this on Amazon. You can get it at a lot of grocery stores at this point, but you do need some sort of way to grind it if you wanted to do this. But this is a bit of an investment. Right?
Yeah, you're using this at Atria.
Absolutely.
Most folks at home do not have what you have at Atria.
Exactly.
What can they use as a substitute if they want to take this to the next level for themselves?
Absolutely. So what I would say is when you're buying your bread flour, just go down the aisle and find a good whole wheat flour, and that's your substitute.
Okay.
That's it. And so the whole wheat does a couple of things. It adds a lot of flavor when it comes to the fermentation, but the other thing that it does is it adds a lot of texture, fiber, nutrition, and bread has been, the staff of life for thousands of years.
Yeah.
Somehow in North America, just the last 30 years, we're like, it's poison. And it's not. It's good stuff. We just don't treat it right. Sourdough starter, good fresh mill grain, it's gonna be great. So here's what we're gonna do.
Cool.
This is an heirloom variety of grain grown out of Arizona. It's fantastic. When you get it in big quantities, it actually smells like apples and cinnamon. But we're just gonna do a little bit in here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna grind it. I think you might want your
I'm gonna get the Chef Cam because I want to get way above here.
Here we go.
I'm gonna get right in there with you.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn it on first, and then we won't talk because it's real loud. Beautiful. And that's it.
Very cool.
And that's it. And so what this is gonna do, this is gonna add a lot of flavor, and then this goes right into the bowl here.
We just made flour, folks. I mean,
That's it.
how cool is that when you gotta think about it?
That is it.
Aha moment, like light bulbs going off here.
That's it. And the last thing we do is we add our salt in.
How important is it to
Simple.
have salt when you are baking?
It's actually the most important thing because salt does two things. It actually seasons, but it also controls the fermentation. So if you don't put salt in, your bread is gonna ferment everywhere. The other thing that salt does too is when you season a steak, what does it do? The proteins tighten up a little bit. So gluten is actually a protein, and when you add the salt in there, it tightens up and gives it some structure. And so that's how we get a really nice crusty loaf as well.
So because if you want to get a crusty loaf like Chef Jim is showing with his recipe for his super sourdough, all the ingredients and the directions are waiting for you over at our website, dinnerdeas.com. Just get your phone, open the camera app, and point at the QR code on the screen. Now, what do we have to do?
Now the moment of truth, you just turn it on and we're gonna let it mix. So turn it on low. If you go too high, you're gonna blast flour everywhere. Ask me how I know.
And how long does this need to mix for?
This usually takes right around 10 minutes. This is a very small batch, so it might be a little bit faster. So now that we're combined, I'm gonna bump up the speed a little bit.
Hey, while our dough does its thing in our stand mixer, we're gonna take a bread break, and when we come back, stretching, folding, dividing, and shaping, and no, we haven't turned it into a keep fit show. It's the top tips this top baker will be sharing with us ahead on Dinner Diaz. Welcome back to Dinner Diaz. Today, we're busy baking with Chef Jim Angus. His day job is baking tasty treats at his restaurant Atria, but today he's sharing his expertise with us as we make a very different idea for dinner, a sourdough smorgasbord supper, and how to make fresh bread that you can combine with whatever you have in the fridge. That's right. Before the break, we started our simple 5-ingredient dough with a sourdough starter, water, flour, white and wheat, salt, and now it's ready for the stretching, the folding, and the fermenting.
That's it.
All right.
All right, so take a look at what we got here. So right now it is very, very wet. And so what we're gonna do is we're moving into the bulk ferment stage.
But it's supposed to look like that to get us
Absolutely.
to that next stage.
Absolutely. So this style of bread is actually designed to have a lot of hydration in it so that this way all of the starches are fully hydrated, all the proteins inside the bread are fully hydrated. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna let it bulk ferment in a lightly oiled pan. All right? And all the oil is doing there is just keeping this super sticky dough from getting stuck to the pan, because look, it's even gonna stick all over my hands. Look at that. Very, very sticky. But here's where
And that's
it
a
gets
good sign
cool.
too.
It's a very good sign, because watch this. So this is why you put a little bit of the oil in. You give it a very gentle stretch. See how it's already starting to come together a little bit?
Yep.
All right, very, very little. So here's what we're gonna do. Using the fast forwarding magic of TV, what we're gonna do is we're actually going to jump to a loaf that I got started earlier, right here. Now take a look at that.
What's the time difference
Completely
between
different.
this one and then this one?
So I would say it's gonna be right around 1.5 to 2 hours,
Okay.
giving it a stretch and fold every now and then. And a stretch and fold is just really simply pulling it.
And
like
how
this.
often do you do that? And I'm going to take the Chef Jeffingham here.
Yeah, so you're gonna do it right around every 30 minutes. And so see, this is what you're looking for. See how like pliable that is? It's almost like a little elastic balloon.
Yep.
That's what you're looking for. And a stretch and fold, you're just gonna stretch it over the top like this and gather it together. See how it's releasing from the side?
Yep.
It's exactly what we want. So once it gets to this stage and it's fully aerated, you got nice little gluten formation, air holes, you're gonna throw it down on the table.
Okay.
So the best part about this is that if you are not comfortable touching dough, you can definitely use gloves. It will make your life way easier, but you need to touch it with your fingers.
And it's, you know, it's almost counter what you think it would be, right? Because when you think baking, you're thinking it's gonna be a mess with all this flour everywhere.
Nope.
You just brought a squirt bottle of water
I did
out.
buy a squirt bottle of water, yeah.
Wouldn't it make it more sticky though? Like,
No, because here's what happens. So look at all of that surface tension that we have. So all of this, you can see the fermentation down here and see how it's not sticking to me anymore. And so that's the power of time. So what it does is the starches hydrate and the proteins hydrate inside of the bread, and that's what's actually gonna give us all that crust. So now take a look. Not sticking to the board because of the water. And you're right, it is counterintuitive. And it does take a little bit of finesse, so we're sticking a little bit here, but that's okay. Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna divide it and shape it. So at this point, we're gonna pull it off the board, like this. And then what we're gonna do for simplicity's sake, we're gonna go right down the middle. And I'm gonna teach you how to do it. You ready?
All right, let's do this.
So here's what we're gonna do. This is the simplest way to shape it ever.
Okay.
So you're gonna stretch it into like a
and you're
loose
just gonna stretch
square.
it out.
Yep.
Loose square here.
Loose square, just like that. Here we go. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna do this, give it a little dance.
A little shake and a little dance. And then
Right up to the third, right here.
right up to the third
Boom.
here.
Oh,
Okay.
you're natural at this. All right, next thing you're gonna do, pull it out so it looks like a little T.
Okay.
Fold it over. Beautiful, right? Mm-hmm. All right, next thing we're gonna do, fold it like this.
And just gonna go straight back over to
Straight
what we
down.
had just
Yep.
at the top there, okay?
And then if you wanna get real fancy, you
Let's-
wanna get fancy?
I wanna get
Here we
fancy.
go. So next thing you're gonna do, using these 3 fingers, you're gonna go, whoosh.
Ooh, so we're gonna do a little crisscross action.
Oh
here.
yeah. Oh, you are natural at this. All right.
Having some fun.
If TV doesn't work out, I got a job for you.
Ooh, all right. Bread making is really a
I
fun
know,
process.
it's
It really
really
is. It's a
fun.
very calming piece
It
to
is,
it.
it is.
There's a beauty of science that comes into it that you
That's
can
it.
appreciate.
And then once you get to here,
Okay.
you're gonna grab it and just roll it over. And
then
it
just
should
roll
look
it
just like that. Dude, very nice. Actually, I think yours is a little bit bigger than mine, but it's okay. So here we go.
all right.
Perfect, right? Mm-hmm. And now if it's just gently undershaped, just pull it in and look
so,
at that.
And so if it's not the shape that you want it to be, you can just roll it and,
yeah.
and get it to where you need it to be.
So if you take a look, see how you got a little bit of end sticking out here?
Uh-huh.
Watch. Just pull it in and tuck it under, and then just let it sit on your cutting board for a little bit, and it's perfect.
And that will help shape it and form it. And so
Absolutely.
that way then, folks, if it's not perfect like that, you can make it, but you
That's
can
it.
still have fun with it.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
So very, very simple. So once you get to this stage, usually I like to let it sit on the bench for a couple minutes so the
Okay.
bottom seals. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna swipe it up.
Okay.
We're gonna just pop it right in our baskets.
Now, did you go up with that flop, or did
Yep.
you just go straight in? Let me
So
see that again.
See this nice skin side? This
Yep.
is what we call it.
This
So
is the skin side, yep.
And this is the seam side. You want to go skin side down in the basket.
Okay.
Because this is what's going to turn into our crust. You want a lot of surface tension.
Okay. So that way then we get that seam side up
Yep,
inside.
seam side up. And
Got
so
it.
because we didn't really let it rest on the bench, that's why it's opening up. But I'm going to show you what it should look like because
And it's still not ready to bake yet.
not yet. But here's what we're gonna do. When you go to this stage, you can then throw it in your fridge for 12, 24, 48, 72 hours.
Okay.
You can let this ferment as long as you want, and it's
What
actually
is
gonna be
but
better.
what is the ideal scenario though? Like, you know,
For me, 12 to 24 hours
Is really kind of the-
ideal.
is the sweet
Yeah.
spot. Okay.
Yeah, and then the longer it ferments, the more sour it's gonna be. I like mine at 48, but I also like things like sour.
all right, sounds good. Because to get Chef Jim's bread recipe in grams, not ounces, at our website, dinnerdeas.com, just scan the QR code to get there.
Yep, and here we go.
Awesome.
And so this is what they should look like. And so see how these are nice and sealed? So our bakers, Tracy and Amy, they do a fantastic job making sure that our bread is sealed and consistent every day.
Okay.
And these are ready to bake. So you ready to score or throw in the oven?
I'm ready to go for it.
All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go get the Dutch oven out.
Okay.
We're gonna grab
I got
this. Oh, don't shave my arm, man.
I was going to say, like, are we going for a straight razor
We
here? Like, are
are.
we going, like, next thing? And it's just like, all right, hey.
All right, here we go. So this is the original bread oven.
This is the original
This
bread
is the
oven.
original one.
This is not the one that's like, you know, someone's
Nope.
Facebook Marketplace anymore.
Oh, no.
That, like, you gotten rid of. This is the real deal,
This
the way
is
to do
real
it the right
deal.
way.
Yes. At
Okay.
home, this is the best way to do it because it traps all that steam in and gives you nice oven spring.
Okay.
So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna have you do this one.
Okay.
But what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it over.
Okay.
And look how beautiful that is.
It looks absolutely beautiful.
And what you're gonna do is you're just gonna go whoosh and score it. That's it. Oh, all right, that's good. But we're
That's
gonna
good?
go a little bit deeper.
You want to go deeper. Why
Yep.
is it so important to go deeper?
So you're gonna go deeper and on a little bit of an angle.
Okay.
So you can see it's almost forming like a little flap.
It's a little happy
like
smile
a little
right there.
happy
It's a little
face.
happy
That's it.
smile right there.
That's it.
It's like staring at me. I'm like,
And here we
see,
go.
that just brings joy to my day right there. It should for you as well.
It does. So once we pop it in, we throw the lid on top. And what it's gonna do is trap all the steam in there, and when we come back, it'll be ready to go.
Awesome. Well, our bread bakes, we're taking a break, and when we come back, how a loaf like this can be the foundation for a delicious idea for dinner, giving your leftovers a new lease of life. Ahead on Dinner DeeAs. Welcome back to Dinner DeeAs. Today we're joined by chef and baker Jim Angus from Atria. He's sharing his recipe for a sourdough loaf and how you can use it for a sourdough smorgasbord supper, which is just a fancy way of saying nice bread plus any leftovers that you like. Before the break, we shaped and baked our sourdough loaf, put in the oven, lid on. Now we're showing you stage 2 of the baking process.
Here we go. You ready for the reveal?
Uh-huh.
All right, look at that.
Look at that.
Beautiful. Look at that spring. That's what we're looking for. It's starting to get golden brown.
And how long did that take to get us that spring?
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
And so we're gonna go back in for another 20 minutes, and all of this softness in here is gonna get real crusty, real
Okay.
delicious. All right?
That's pretty quick to bake. I mean, less than an hour.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, now you have so much opportunity. You've got
Absolutely.
a vessel for an incredible dish, like a smorgasbord like
a
this.
smorgasbord. Perfect.
All right.
So I look at this and I go, a great piece of toast is like a blank canvas, and you can put whatever you want on it.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is we did some really, really simple breakdown of how to make an awesome toast to make it look like you did it on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really just kind of a fridge clean out. So you start with your base, protein and veg,
Okay.
some greens, and then some garnish to finish it off, and it looks like you did this on purpose.
What are you
Beautiful.
going with?
I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna
take some of
jump
that skin,
into some of these mushrooms. So I started with some red pepper hummus.
Nice.
A little bit of mushroom on top.
Okay.
And then you're gonna go for the arugula, right?
I think so. I want to have a little pockets. I want to have like nice little peppery
some
bite here.
regular greens on top of this.
Okay.
And then let's finish this off with a little bit of lemon zest. And then I had a friend gift me some really nice balsamic, so we're gonna throw some of this on top too. Actually,
nice
this
little-
guy. So I love using Greek yogurt as a base because it's like a really tangy but also kind of creamy base
Ooh,
that works
nice.
really well
Okay.
with some marinated chicken. And then maybe some
To have this sourdough on standby for your supper, get Chef
Yeah.
Jim's recipe with all the ingredients and the directions at dinnerdeas.com. Scan the code with your phone's camera and a link will appear. All right.
Beautiful.
Oh, nice. Good job
Look
on
at
that one.
that.
I like
look at
that one here.
Yeah. What else are you missing?
I got
Looking
a
good.
little bit of balance on these flavors
I like it.
here.
I like it. And look at that. So
I mean,
simple.
So simple and economical.
Super economical, very inexpensive. And if you put that out in front of your friends, they're going to think that you really tried to do this. Meanwhile, you actually cleaned out your fridge.
I love it. Absolutely.
Double win.
Our sourdough smorgasbord supper is ready for sampling. After this quick break, that's right ahead on Dinner DeeAs. Welcome back to Dinner DeeAs, where we have ideas for dinner for you. And today's inspiration is using whatever you have on hand, because we've been making a homemade sourdough as the backbone of a sourdough smorgasbord supper, thanks to our baking buddy chef, Jim Angus from Atria. Well, all of this looks great. I mean, we just had some fun making this.
Oh, yeah.
This would be great for any dinner here, folks. We're gonna keep it simple. We're going to the basics here because we're going with just the two. We're going bread and we going butter.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, moment of silence. Look at that.
Oh yeah, all that steam coming off. Like, come on.
All right, here we go. We got to get in here. Look at that.
I think there's something so beautiful and symbolic about being able to break bread.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And there's crumbs everywhere, right?
and that right there is like the labor of love behind it, because that's what it should be all about. Because you can make the smorgasbord.
Yeah.
Or you can make it just
anybody
as simple
can do this.
and as fun as this. And anyone can do this. You're absolutely right.
You ready?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Boom.
Oh. It doesn't get old for me.
It doesn't get old for you.
Every day for 5 years. Doesn't get
How
old.
many loaves do you think you've made in your lifetime right now?
I have no idea. A couple thousand.
A couple thousand.
Yeah, probably.
Thanks again to Chef Jim. A link to his restaurant, Atria, is on our website, dinnerdeas.com, along with his sourdough bread recipe. And if you make it, take a photo. Let us know how it turned out. I'm Jeff Philbin. See you next time with more Dinner Dias.